payments and neobanking. So as the population of Africa continues to increase, more and more individuals are looking for tech solutions that enable them to easily save, withdraw, invest, and conduct other common transactions. To lead this panel, I would like to invite Paula Hunter, the Executive Director for Mojaloop Foundation, a charitable non-profit organization focused on extending the financial inclusion efforts of the Mojaloop open source software projects. And I apologize. Our moderator for this session is actually Sofiane Sidoum, the head of Africa for Conduit, a stable coin-powered bank as a service. Thank you. Apologies. And we're looking for the rest of the panelists.
Hello, everybody. So I am not Viola. She couldn't make it. My name is Sofiane, and I'm substituting her. With me today, we have Paula Hunter here. I'm going to call Sophia Zab here with us. The rest of the panelists. It is my pleasure also to call Alain de Souza.
I can't navigate that properly.
We also have in the room Samuel Eze. And Jide Ogunjobi. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the panel is complete. Welcome. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to Payments and Neobanking, the backbone of Fintech. Jide works for VerifyMe, a KYC company in Nigeria. Paula Hunter is the founder and promoter of the famous Mojaloop Foundation. Samuel Eze is the founder and CEO of OurPass, a neobank in Nigeria. And Alain de Souza works for Clickatel, a company that is in the communication business, tied with payment and neobanking. And Sophia Zab is the Chief Marketing Officer from PalmPay, a payment company out of Nigeria too. Let's begin with the commonalities of our businesses. All of us, all of you, operate in Africa. Was that a choice? Was it random? Why are you there? Who wants to take that?
I can go first. So for me, it was actually, I got hooked. Most of my experience, for I think 13 years, it was based in the US. I went to college here. I did my master's here. Actually, I have 2 masters here. worked for banks, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Bank of New York Mellon, Grubhub, and so on and so forth. But I'm Nigerian, in case if you don't know, I'm Nigerian. And I never really thought about going back to Nigeria. And I went back once, and I used to do a little bit of consulting. And I got back to Nigeria once, so this was back in 2016, 2017, and I got hooked. Because I saw, I think, no disrespect to any company in the US, I think when I always saw a ceiling for where I was, where I could get to. And not that it was when I was at Citigroup, I was a VP at Citigroup, and I had other, but I just had a ceiling. And when I went to Nigeria, I saw just opportunities that were untapped, and things that sitting in the US I would never have known were possible. I was explaining to one of my friends a while ago, in the US, the whole idea of agency banking in Nigeria, and his mind was blown. Like, what the heck is agency banking? Like, really, you're giving people POSs and people are literally ATMs? But so, we sit in, I sat in the US and, stayed at my screen all day, and literally that was all I could see. But once I got to Africa and Nigeria, and I went to some countries in Africa, it was just a whole new experience for me, and saw things that I didn't even know were possible, and really just got hooked. And I told myself I wasn't going to work in the US anymore. I'm going to Nigeria, and any job I have is going to be in Nigeria or in Africa. So that's really where it started for me.
Well, when we looked at the fact that there's almost 2 billion citizens on this globe that do not have access to financial services, they're either unbanked or underserved, we said, what markets can we help? And where can we bring in new technologies and innovation to reach customers in a new way? So rather than building bank branches, how can we leverage the fact that many of these citizens in rural populations have mobile phones? Maybe not high-end smartphones, but they have feature phones. So what technology can we leverage to deliver financial services and digital payments technology to in a new and innovative way, and not encumber some of these countries with having to deal with legacy systems that may be too complex or frankly outdated to reach their citizens?
And so you focused on the backbone of the industry, of the infrastructure, to favor financial inclusion.
Exactly. Allowing
thus companies like PalmPay to dwell into financial inclusion. Is that right, Sophia?
Yes, so financial inclusion has always been a core part of our business model. So our first market is in Nigeria, and today we have almost 25 million users there. But to be able to reach that scale, we realized that we couldn't just build a financial institution that focused on those that were already banked, because less than a third of people had a bank account or a mobile money account when we first started out. So we knew that we'd have to drive financial inclusion ourselves. And that's why we got a mobile money operator license. We've built a mobile money agent and merchant network of 500,000 agents across the country now. So that has helped us bring that accessibility for our systems. And we decided to be a smartphone-first company because we know that the trend is that most Africans will have smartphones within the next couple of years. So we really wanted to leverage that platform to be able to grow. But when it comes to financial inclusion, the bigger challenge that we discovered in Nigeria is actually that it's not just about creating accounts and making sure that people have access to them. It's also making sure that people consider it to be a convenient option and that they see the benefits of transacting digitally versus cash. And when we first launched, we found that up to 10% of all transactions would fail for consumers when they try to do them with a normal bank account. So we really worked on developing our systems and improving upon that infrastructure so that today 99.5% of all of our transactions arrive successfully within 10 seconds. And it's that building that stability of the system that has helped us grow cashless adoption more than anything else. And after all, that's what financial inclusion is all about, that people actually use cashless payments.
And for you, Samuel, you have, I would imagine, a similar experience. You run a neobank. Transaction is your bread and butter, but you do that for businesses, not for retail.
Yeah, so for me, right, it was more around my experience working with P&G, Procter& Gamble. So I used to lead P&G's business for Lagos State, being the largest commercial territory, right? So playing with small businesses from the kiosks, right, the very small store, to the like other medium traditional stores, then across hyper supermarkets, being modern trade, right? It was more of that experience that led me into working with my team to build a smart bank for businesses. So today, that has enabled us to also serve businesses of all sizes. It doesn't matter if it's a nano business, right, or to the super large business, right? We're able to serve all of these businesses to enable them further grow or scale their businesses, right? So, which is why today you get to Nigeria, you can walk into like the largest supermarket retail chains, the likes of Spar, supermarkets, ShopRite, MedPlus being the largest pharmaceutical retail chain, and then you see our pass powering all of those guys, right? So we're doing that and also serving the very small businesses. But yes, we still have a very long way to go, right? Like my fellow panelist, Sophia, she spoke about the 25 million customers PalmPay has. So yeah, that's for like individuals, right? But we are serving already thousands of small businesses, and we're looking to also further grow that number.
Alain, those are geographies you know well, right? You operate there also.
For sure. So Click-a-Tell started off as a California-based company, started off by South Africans that then relocated back to Cape Town. If you've been to Cape Town before, it's not hard to believe or understand why you would want to go back and relocate in Cape Town. And so we have very large parts of sub-Saharan Africa where we have roughly 10,000 customers globally. We're a B2B company, and we power brands that want to engage with customers on chat. And as Sophia said, it's sort of like a mobile-first capability. So we do that for people like Spar, as Sam mentioned, and we offer those services so they're one-handed transactions, so people can go on and use these services easily. And the reason we have this business is the eyes are on chat. There are 5 billion SMS users out there. There are 2.1 billion WhatsApp users. If you're a WhatsApp user, raise your hand for a second. There you go. You're proving the value proposition of what we do. If you're an Apple user like me, there are 1.8 billion people out there that are using those services. And I think the interesting thing where Africa has an advantage over the US or this hemisphere, mobile became first, and mobile is sticky, and that engagement is real. And so while what's going on in the US has been mostly e-commerce related, the super apps and these rails of messaging is super critical and become very sticky to provide services for financial inclusion like Sophia, or for, on Sam's side, for enabling brands.
And so it looks like I'm very happy with the panel we have now because you are all very complementary. Like we have an infrastructure foundation, we have a communication specialist, we have a super app, financial inclusion, we have a business neobank, we have KYC. Like you guys all together, you could redefine like this fintech world. What's the challenges that you're facing currently, individually? What prevents you from going as fast and as far as you'd like? Samuel, Luke.
All right. Okay. I think the biggest challenge for us would be fraud, right? Yeah, I think it's fraud. And I know Jide will speak more around that, but let me just drop a few points around it. So one thing we've come to realize is the fact that while you're scaling a fintech product, right, it has become very, very important to also scale a fraud infrastructure, like simultaneously, right? Because even when you think about the basic KYC that is needed today to create a business account, right, being BVN, right, you tend to see that fraudsters can actually sit back, right, get very little kids of about 12 years, 10 years, people who are not even up to the age of having a BVN. Do you understand? But then you see, I don't know how they do it, I don't know how they manipulate that, but very little kids of 10, 12 years have BVNs today, and they use that to create accounts. Do you understand? So, yeah, and that becomes a very, very big problem for us. So even with the BVN, which happens to be, or should be something good, right? For us at our part, what we have done is, if you use your BVN to create a business account, we just limit you to the barest minimum. So you can transact, like you cannot transact more than, say, 100,000 naira per day. And we still monitor those transactions. So for you as a business owner to even transact way more than that, you have to now share more documentations, right, that we can use to identify you and your business.
For our US audience who wouldn't be familiar with Nigeria, the BVN is a banking verification number, and every individual who has a bank account has to have one. That's how we identify the owner of the bank account.
That's correct. So yes, so I would say again, fraud is a big thing, right? So for everyone who is building a fintech product must actually scale their fraud infrastructure simultaneously.
So, just totally agree with, where Sam is. And we're doing a lot of things today and building for the future to tackle a lot of those problems. So, yes, everybody has most people have a BVN. And Verify Me, one of the things we started as when we started operations was basically, in a sense, being resellers of government data. We're plugged into the government bodies, NIBs, NIMC, driver's license, police reports, and basically we use that as we become a pass-through to companies like Our Pass and PalmPay, and so on and so forth. But we started to realize, with issues like that they were experiencing, we needed to do a lot more. Verify Me, we're one of the only companies, KYC companies in Nigeria that also does real-life verification in addition to, the API-based verification. So essentially, we have an agent network. So after, just like Sam said, after someone does a BVN verification and he has, maybe there's a limit to what he can do, maybe like 20,000. If the person wants to unlock more, we actually will have a physical agent go to that person's house and verify, first of all, that this house exists. Number two, this person lives there. Talk to the neighbors, like, does Mr. Sam live here? Those type of things. So once we get that verification and report back, and it's an added service. So, once Sam gets that verification, he knows that this person is legit. So this 20,000 limit now can be 100,000, 200,000. The other thing we're also doing, and we're hoping to launch this before the end of this year, is a product we're calling Fraud View. Essentially, what we're doing is a consortium of banks and fintechs, where, for example, when a company like Sam sees that somebody, they flag an account or BVN or whatever as fraudulent, we hold a database where they can submit that, and we have all these banks and basically submit all this, transactions, accounts, BVNs that they see as fraudulent, and like I said, we have multiple partners within that, within that consortium, and then other banks can actually see that data, so they can use that as a last level of KYC after they've done their regular KYC. Say, hey, this BVN has been reported. Because one of the things that Sam probably, for the people who are opening BVNs or bank account with BVNs at his bank are probably doing with 10 other banks at the same time, probably within 30 minutes, right? So we're able to see that and we're able to flag it and say, hey, this person has reported it. So the next bank who tries to open it with a BVN, you will have that as an added stop.
Okay, so fraud prevention and verification, that's one.
Can I add another perspective to this?
Please.
So yeah, I totally agree. As a financial institution, making sure that you do the identity verification and have very secure systems is important, because at the end of the day, it's about, can your customers trust where they're putting their money. That is the most important question they'll be asking. And we actually found that we've had to go further than that to help our customers feel safe on the platform. So everywhere around the world, and also in Nigeria, there's a prevalence of scams. And so when a scammer convinces a victim to send money to them willingly, but that transaction passes through our platform, no matter if we have the best system, it might still impact the trust and the reputation of our company. So we actually do several things to help safeguard our users in that respect. We do user education where we inform them about the most common scams that are out there and what they can do to protect themselves. But we've also built a 24-hour response team that actually follows up on reports of scams that our users can send them via the app. And then if that happens quickly enough, they're able to freeze the account and create the transactions and return the money in some cases as well. So yeah, in Nigeria, you really have to go above and beyond to help customers feel safe.
Indeed. So safety and security is one thing. Paula, what do you have on your mind?
People. I'll use an example of your own home. Have you ever tried to fix your kitchen sink and not succeeded? What do you do next? You call a plumber. Because what you need is someone with skills that understands your kitchen infrastructure. Well, we provide infrastructure for instant payment systems. And what we find is when we go into developing economies, the central bank may have no expertise in implementing an instant payment switch. So what we find a big challenge is finding resources for those banks to deploy an instant payment switch without becoming dependent on some global international systems integrator that's going to swoop in, charge a lot of money, implement the payment switch, and swoop out. What we want to do is build up skilled professionals in a community across a region that can help one another grow the skills to not only implement the technology, but to maintain it. Because technology breaks. We all know that. And so making sure that regardless of what we bring to solve the problem from a technological standpoint, that there's a sustainable model to enhance it, maintain it, and operate it.
Indeed. Are any of you facing talent issues, recruitment in your day-to-day business?
Yeah, my boss and I, we have a favorite phrase, like hiring developers right now is like Hunger Games. Literally, it is, especially in Nigeria. It's hard. It's hard. Just to find, before we even get to like highly skilled, and I mean highly skilled, like cybersecurity experts, just even trying to find developers. There used to be a time where, excuse my saying, you could throw a stone out the window and hit a developer. Now they're scarce, and it's a good thing, I think, for the ecosystem, because most of them have more opportunities. So where we could, pick anybody off the street, now, there are 10 people literally, doing a tug of war for one developer. So it is, and so essentially what that means is the people that we have, we're treating them really well and making sure they don't go anywhere.
And does the fact that nowadays the talent pool is more and more global, and remote working or distributed teams are becoming more and more common, doesn't that help a little bit? Or does that favor competition? Question for all of you, not just Jada, yeah. Maybe Alain, you have...
Sorry. So we have offices in Lagos, we have offices in Cape Town, Toronto, as well as the US, and we have a distributed team, and we actually do take advantage of following the sun, and so it is advantageous to have that capability. And it doesn't always work, candidly, but when it works really well, and is an opportunity to scale a lot faster. I think from a scale, or what are the inhibitors of scale, is that expertise is lacking in some cases, and it's not just all financial services. A lot of it is, in order to grow this capability of fraud and other items, you need people that have multi-industry expertise. So it's not just financial services. I'm not trying to bash financial services. I spent a big career in financial services, but that expertise in things like retail, that is kind of a super ingredient in terms of taking the essential parts of retail, bringing it into financial services, and all of a sudden you've got a way better product, a way better service, and you have a better understanding of how to operate at great scale, because retailers fetch that crunch during Black Friday through the holidays and just about any other holiday. And so we're seeing that as well. The retail is a real changer for us, certainly for chat. Financial services is important, telecom is important. These are kind of the core builds. What governments release, their market makers, they do all of that, but the retailers bring it home in terms of making it sticky. And so then people look at your brand, they look at your brand. They don't look at you as an FI, they don't look at you as a neobank, they look at you as a brand. And they look at you the same way they'll look at a ShopRite or a Spar or a Walmart for that matter.
Okay. And in light with that idea, does the fact that markets is more and more regional or global, what does that tell you about cross-border payment, interoperability, not only within countries, but at the regional level? Where are we with that? Is it enough? Not yet? Paula?
I would say not yet. It's obviously a very complex issue to solve because you have multiple currencies, but you also have many different providers in the supply chain that are transmitting the funds. So you want to do something as simple as pay with a credit card with some merchants. You walk in and they have 8 card readers because they don't have an interoperable credit card payment system. So the merchant has to pay for all of those 8 readers, or 6 or 5, or whatever they choose to offer to the consumers. And then the consumers have to come in and match their card, if they have a card, to that reader. So then you take it to the next step and say, okay, I want to send money from Rwanda to Tanzania. My sister is on a different mobile network operator platform. We use 2 different banks. All of a sudden now you've got 4 different variables that you have to settle and at the same time make the currency exchange. And who's going to take the risk on the currency exchange? Who's going to do the quote for the currency exchange so that it's settled in the proper currency to the recipient? There's a lot of keen interest and a lot of projects in this area, but we have a lot of ways to go. You just take 2 countries, you get 2 different regulators that have to weigh in as well. You want to go to 54 countries, you have 54 regulators that have to weigh in. So it's a highly complex problem, a ton of energy in trying to solve it, particularly for cross-border payments with migrant workers and refugees and aid agencies that want to disperse money, governments that want to disperse payments. But we still have a lot of work to do, in my estimation.
All right. Samuel, is it something you are confronted with also?
So what I would say is, I think neobanks are maybe best fits to solve that, right, frankly, because an Outpass tomorrow can decide to aggregate all of the providers out there into like a single app, being Outpass. So maybe probably one of the major reasons why the name of our company today is called Outpass, right? Because we'll keep giving our customers the pass they need into any country, into any product they want to use. So take, for instance, we can decide to expand into other parts of Africa and choose to aggregate the likes of M-Pesa, Wave, all of them into like a single, into Outpass, right? And with that, you can accept payments from everywhere, right? And just to add to what Paula has said, with respect to not having to interface with all of the regulators across different countries, we can actually build that on a blockchain infrastructure, right? To be able to move funds, it doesn't matter the currency, right? And we can achieve that. I don't think it will be so much of a problem for us, right? Based off on the way our pass is positioned today, right? So expanding into other countries is just, I think all it requires is just a single API plugin integration, and we're in with all of the other providers.
And I think that's the promise of neobanking, right? So as a guy that used to work for 2 other banks in previous lives, you can only go as far as your stack can take you. And so if you're dealing with mainframe systems that are really coded to a region, you don't have that agility to move from one market to the next. And what Sam said is actually the promise of neobanking, to be able to crack those borders, because that stack will take you as far as you go. They don't have the technical debt, and they have the ability to kind of change those parameters to be able to go into another market. And there's regulatory issues for sure, but if end users, at the end of the day, the hook is the end user. So the regulators want to create a system where they make their people happy, their population, they get their votes, but really it's the end users that offer that hook to say, I want this service, and that demand buys, well, it doesn't buy votes, but it certainly drives that push for innovations, and neobanks have that as an advantage.
Exactly. Just also add to what he has said, right? Think about it this way, that the stage where we're seated on right now is a wallet infrastructure. Right, and everyone seated here today are like different products, the M-Pesa, the AFTSDC, the Wave, like everyone, right? So anyone who comes in here can easily just plug into this same wallet infrastructure by default, right? And that's what makes like a neobank more interesting. We can plug in this table, plug in this, and this is not affecting this is not affecting the other. Everyone has their own direct connection, right? And by default, it means as a business owner or as an individual, you can move to any country and still do your business and accept payments seamlessly, right? Even on the promise of instant confirmation of payments, and as well instant settlements, which means it's not just about receiving payments. As a business owner, what do I care about? I care so much about instant notification. You're paying me now, I don't need to keep it for 1 more minute. Right? Can I receive my payment in 10 seconds, in 5 seconds, in 3 seconds? Yes. Can I also liquidate that fund instantly? Right? These are all of the features and benefits of using our pass. Thanks.
So how are banks going to survive? They have to worry about. Is the next thing for payment companies and neobank getting into lending, engaging with the regulator to get that magic pass?
So what I would say with respect to that is this. Even as a neobank, it doesn't mean that we are not regulated. In fact, for an hour pass, we acquired a microfinance bank last year, right? Thereby like getting the microfinance bank license. So it means we're also regulated. So by default, that enables us to also issue loans to businesses, right? And also, you said what happens to the banks, right? So today the banks are majorly, and this is me speaking about like the Nigerian banks, they're majorly interested in deposits, right? And that's what keeps them going, deposits, right? So if a big bank walks into this very hall right now and meets fintech founders, the big thing, even after the whole conversations, if they like, if they choose to, they can give you drinks, water, just to feel good and at home. The end of that conversation would be, hey, can you route your transactions to me? I need the deposits, right? So the deposit sits with them. Do you understand? But I would say a new bank like ours, the way we're thinking about our business and model is not just around the transactions and whatnot, right? It's more around how can we also track AUM, asset under management, which is deposits as well. Because if the traditional banks were able to get to where they are today based off on that deposits, right? Even if today they don't have the type of technology that the fintechs have, it means there's something interesting that they have that we must learn from them, which I like to call it the secret sauce, which is deposits. Can we also build out that deposits channel? Do you understand? Just so we're able to build a much more sustainable business. And I think that is one thing we've been able to achieve so far. Today we have like a fixed deposit team within our pass. Do you understand? That all they do is go after the high net worth individuals who come in and fix their funds within our pass. And with that, we're able to issue loans and other things. Oh yes, funds from the HNIs can be a bit or slightly expensive depending on how you negotiate. Do you understand? But then when you aggregate and expand your SME customer base, like wider, right? What that does for you is you are able to track a much more higher AUM right? Without actually incurring any cost. That way you can call it a very cheap deposit, right? And with that, you don't have to share the returns with anyone. You just issue that out. So I think that is the hack, expanding the base.
And maybe that's a lesson SVB would have wanted to know beforehand.
Yeah, I just want to chime into that, I think one of the key advantages that neobanks have compared to traditional banks is that we take more of an ecosystem approach, as everyone has mentioned. So we think about interoperability and about how to build out the network and the use cases for the users, whereas I think traditionally banks and mobile money organizations have been thinking about how do we grow our own ecosystem and actually keep people away, and that's why governments have had to step in and regulate it and build interoperability. But from our side, what we would love to see Pompey become is a super app where we actually become a platform that also helps other startups launch their propositions. So it's not just about what we can build, but we have a lot of users and we know a lot about them. So we would love to be a place where startups can launch their propositions and where we can actually help match them to their ideal customer base. And we're already working on that. We have around 1,000 billers live in Nigeria. And we're launching partnerships in the areas of embedded finance, including lending and insurance as well. So yeah, we're happy to be working with others.
Well, you have many here, fellow associates that you can work with, I'm sure. Non sequitur. Each of you, what are you, for your own business and the industry you're in, what are you excited about for this year? What are you working on that you'd like to share with us, let's say, that I'm going to be proud of, that I'm excited to see happening today?
Two things. I mentioned one of them, which is the fraud view platform. We think it's going to be revolutionary because it's that added KYC. We love KYC, and we love because I think we mentioned the aspect is an infrastructure, regardless of how many banks, how many fintechs, how many neobanks, they all need us. You can't run a fintech business without a company like Verify Me. So the more we are able to create great products, that help companies like these succeed, I think the more we'll be successful as well. The second project that we're starting to do some on-chain verification. Sam here is talking about some stuff on the blockchain, and a lot of fintech companies are also doing a lot of things on the blockchain. So we're trying to do, for companies that already do blockchain financing, yellow card, and some, payments and all that, they have to do their KYC off the chain. They have to do traditional KYC, do the regular KYC that everyone does before they let them on their platform. And we're trying to build solutions that allow them to do it on the chain, instead of having to do it outside first before bringing it in. So we have some solutions that we're pioneering, and hopefully we should have something around Q3 of this year.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
We'll talk. I'm in blockchain myself. We'll talk.
We're happy to talk.
Paula.
Right now, a top priority for us is improving the merchant payment scheme. As I mentioned today, it's a bit of a mess in some countries when you have to go pay a merchant. And in fact, many cases, you'd rather just eliminate the credit card component entirely and have people use wallets and QR codes to settle payments and not, of course, if you're unbanked, you probably don't have a credit card anyway, so why not just go to a wallet and QR-based payment system? The second project that is much longer term in scope for us, but we've just kind of really launched, is wholesale CBDC settlement. So we're talking to big developed central banks like the Monetary Authority of Singapore, but also developing markets to see how could we leverage CBDC for in-network and cross-network exchanges of currency. So that's the future, but I'm building a team for that right now, and so I'm really excited about that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, so one of the major ways neobanks are differentiated from traditional banks is traditional banks have locations like everywhere. Like they have buildings everywhere. They like to incur the cost they incur today, which is fine by them, right? But neobanks, most neobanks either don't have an office anywhere or they have just one office. Do you understand? But then they also want to have a very wild reach. So, but one thing that is, or I would say two things that I'm super excited, likewise my team, for this year is how we can leverage our customer locations, right, as hubs across Nigeria. That is one thing we're looking to really achieve this year. So we have presence, we want to have more presence in every single cluster market across Nigeria, then create hubs there without spending 1 naira, like without spending $1 or a cent. Let me put it that way, right? Without spending a cent. And people are able to relate with our past, because one thing is, I think we are now moving from, I would say financial institutions are now moving from not just providing a solid product, right, but into good after-sales support. Because it's not just about onboarding these businesses or customers, it's about the support afterwards. Do you understand? So through those hubs, we're able to stay last mile with these customers, right? And also provide them with the support that they need. So for us, it's about scaling our support, not just via chat and saying, oh, we've solved your problem, but also having presence everywhere without having presence. That is without owning any building, without spending any money on rent, but leveraging on our customer locations to achieve that.
Impressive.
So from my end, we're a company that powers experiences for brands on rails. And so the most exciting things probably revolve around WhatsApp. We are driving new experiences that are coming in Q2 that is going to change how you shop, how you buy things on your phone like you never did before. And that applies to how you buy your groceries, to how you buy your flights. And that will revolutionize commerce on a day-to-day, and it's all about payments underneath. So we're very excited about bringing that in the time to come.
On WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp? Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right. Excited.
So for us, we have two main strategic priorities this year. We want to expand to more African markets. We're already piloting in Ghana. We have teams on the ground in several more. Our offering in Nigeria is extremely comprehensive, and we're trying to understand the context in other markets now to see how we can go to market. Potentially that will happen with partners. And the second thing that we're working on is building out the ecosystem outside of the PalmPay app. So right now we've succeeded in building the behavior of encouraging customers and individuals to do cashless payments. And now we're building out a merchant network to see how can we actually encourage cashless payments on there as well, because it's still normal behavior to prefer to pay with cash when you go to a retail shop or a restaurant. And so we're looking to transform that in Nigeria too. And then another thing that I'm excited about for the industry as a whole is AI. You know, this is something that has kind of happened to us in the last 4 months, and I think by the time we're sitting here next year, like all of us will have integrated AI in some shape or form in our companies. I think every team is looking at that, and it's kind of like a crazy journey we're on where we don't know where this bus is going or like where it will stop, but I think we all know we have to be along for the ride, so we're thinking about how we can do that as well.
So true, so true. And we would love nothing more than to keep chatting all together about fintechs and neobank and the future of the industries. But maybe we should let the audience here ask a few questions. We can't see you. It's like being on stage and there's a very bright light. So we don't know if any of you would like to know more about the industry, fintech. Going once. Going twice.
No questions. There are no questions. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your time.